There is nothing worse than untapped potentials. If you know that you're made for more, this is the place. I know that every successful person I've ever met has one thing in common. They do not let themselves fall victim to their circumstances. They figure out a way to rise above it. So join me on this journey where I help you to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business. If you're feeling stuck and you're needing some practical tools, some hope to get you to that better life, this is definitely the place for you. Hey everyone, welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm your host, Lachelle Weemy, and today we get a chance to hear from Patience Modevi. You guys, not only is she an NLP practitioner, but she's a life coach, and she is going to really help us to learn how to love ourselves in the midst of being stuck. And I just love her message, and I love everything that she's doing. So good morning, Patience. It's so nice to see you. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. And from where I am in London, so it's good.
Oh, is it? That's right. You are in London.
So, yes.
Did you notice that I paused for just a second?
I'm so glad
I paused for a second. I'm like, it's morning here, but I wonder what. That's right. So it's so good to see you. And thanks for joining me from London, my friend. And I would love so much for you to kind of do your story justice. Why don't you tell us more about who you are and how you're trying to make a difference in the world these days?
Wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so glad to be here. And hopefully I can help everybody in the audience to understand how to reach out through within, but reach out to outside, to everything. So to the good and the bad. So basically, where do I start? There's so much.
There is so much that we can talk about. And so some people might not know what NLP is. So it's neuro-linguistic programming. And so you've studied essentially how our subconscious plays out in our current situation and how we might be self-sabotaging ourselves through previous programming that we had no control over, basically, when we were children. And you also just have this passion for helping people to love themselves in the middle of when things maybe aren't going so great. And I got to just ask you, where did the inspiration of that come from? I'm guessing that there's a story behind that of things that you personally have gone through that have led to this journey. So why don't you start there and tell us a little bit about where that journey started?
Yeah, that's actually perfect. Well, the reason why I went into NLP and coaching was really to support young people and teenagers. The reason I wanted to support them is because when I was a teenager, I lost my mom at the age of 16. So when I lost my mom, I realized that there was so many things that I didn't have, and I was lacking support into certain areas. Unfortunately, that led to a series of events in my life that then brought a bit of hardship and quite a few challenges along the way. So being an adult, having worked with young people for quite some time, for actually 10 years previously, I started to want to do something that will really benefit young people in that way. But what happened is that on my journey, I also had other people who were drawn to me because I was giving advice, and I was actually supporting so many people into seeing the best that they can see into their lives. And that brought me to open up, if I can say, my area of working, and actually helping young people on one side and also helping women on another side. So everything in my life, I believe, has been leading me to where I am today. So I've always wanting to help people because I went through things, and those things were hard for myself. So I would have wished to have someone like me at the time, and therefore I'm there for other people in that way.
Patience, can you tell me a little bit more about, when you say hardships that you have been through? If you're willing to be vulnerable with me for a second and talk to me about some of those hardships so that the people who are listening can connect, like, oh my gosh, like I've been through that too. Because I think that sometimes when we know that there's somebody else that has gone through or is going through what we're going through, it makes us feel less alone. It makes us feel like there's hope that I can get out of my situation. So will you describe to me a little bit about what you mean by hardships?
Yes. So, like I was saying before, so it all started when I lost my mom at the age of 16. So when I lost her, everything that I believe was true wasn't anymore. So everything that, because all my belief was shattered, I started to do things that I wouldn't do normally. So I did not want to stay with my dad, and therefore I left home really quickly. And when I left home really quickly, I ended up meeting someone which I thought would be my husband forever. And unfortunately, it did not pan out that way. And the reason why is because he had his own agenda, and it wasn't the same agenda. And therefore, really early on, I was a really shy person, really kind of naive in terms of life. And early on, I got caught up into his world. So he ended up, making me isolated and really by myself in his world. So I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have a lot of people that I could confine in. I wasn't seeing my family as much as I would have if I was with someone who was supporting me. And that led to us getting divorced. So basically, by the age of 25, I was divorced, a single mother, and I realized that my son was autistic. So everything came crashing down on me at the time, and I couldn't see further than what was happening at that time. All I could see was the hardship, everything that was happening, me being with someone who wasn't loving me but was loving himself, who wasn't a father to the son we had, and then learning about the disability of my son, and I had no prior understanding of what autism was. So there was a lot of difficulties into getting to with that, but I was in a period of grief. So basically from the age of 16 to the age of 25, I was in a period of grief. And things will happen, like, for example, every birthday, every family event, like big events, I will be crying, I will be depressed. I wouldn't feel like I wanted to be celebrating or anything like that. And I couldn't see, I have to be honest with you, Rachel, I couldn't see beyond. All I could see is that by the age of 30, I would probably have a nervous breakdown and be in a mental institute, in a place where, because I felt like I couldn't cope, basically. That's how I felt. And I think that, so basically I never learned how to be a woman, how to be my own individual until I reached a certain point where I was like, what's going to happen? Is my life going to stay the same like this? Is this what life is? And then I started to say, no, I'm sure life is, that's not what life is. I'm sure God didn't put us here so that we suffer every single day and we go through challenges after challenges. There must be something out there that is worth, living. So then I started to change my language, and it started just from the language, changing my language and saying, I'm not well today, but I will be tomorrow. So when people were calling me, so the few friends I had at the time were calling me and were asking me, Patience, are you okay? I was like, you know what? I'm not okay, but I will be tomorrow. I'm not okay, but I will be tomorrow. And I started saying that sentence over and over and over. And from there, I thought, well, what's going to happen? You've got to take charge in some way. What are you going to do? And then from there, I just started to go like, well, let's go to the basics. What do I need to survive? What does my son need to survive? I concentrated on my son first because he was the priority. And then I decided that being 25, so I'm going to say it again, but being 25, divorced, single mother, which was never what I had planned, was not my that was not my legacy, and I was going to change that. And from there, it started.
I love that because, so many times we can get into this state where we recognize that we're grieving, that we're sad, we're depressed, that things are triggering us and that we haven't quite healed from them, and that life did not turn out the way that you thought it would, and that things are really, really hard. And sometimes people just decide to give up, right? They're just like, I don't even know. This isn't for me. But you decided that your life was not going to look the same in the future. You decided that you were ready to do something about it and make those changes. And I love how you had to come to that point in your life, right? Where you had to make that decision. Like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not the legacy that I want to have. This is not the life that I want to live until God decides that I don't need to be here anymore. I don't want this for myself. I don't want this for my son. And you decided that day or that moment or that, time to start doing something about it. And I literally cannot wait to walk along this journey with you and really start from that moment and lead us through that moment and where you were then to where you are now. And you guys, we're going to be just tied to every single word. So make sure that you grab your notebooks. But really quick, first, what we want to do is we want to take a quick moment, and I need to introduce you guys. I need to introduce you to something that I've been working on. I am so stinking excited. Not only is it going to help you to be better, do better, and have better, but also including in that is the balance that you need. So I can help you to work smarter, not harder, and accomplish everything that you want, but keep your sanity. So I cannot wait to tell you all about it. So I'm going to do that quickly, and then we're going to get right back into Patient's story and how we can learn from her exactly step by step on what she did. All right, so guys, I'll see you in a second. Hey, Lachelle here, and I just got to ask you, do you ever listen to podcasts or special training from gurus who are telling you exactly what to do, but you still have questions? Wouldn't it be amazing if you actually could ask questions to the people who are presenting to give you your personalized answer to how you can get into action and apply it to your unique situation? That is exactly why I created the Better Club Elite, which is a very special, very exclusive monthly membership that gives you access to those question and answer sessions that are going to get you into action and get you all lined up with everything that you need to start being better, doing better, and having better in life and in business. The support, the answers, and everything that you need to get you into action. So let's go. Okay, Patience, I have been waiting patiently to hear the rest of your story. Oh my goodness. So tell me, you made that decision. You said that you had to prioritize. You had to decide, like, what do I have to just live and survive? And so kind of tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you did.
Yeah. So basically it was either I was like surviving or I was living and thriving. So I chose to live and thrive and not just survive. And so basically, it started really naturally with understanding that I I have always been a dreamer, and I stopped dreaming
Yeah.
basically. So I stopped dreaming for that whole period of time in my life. I stopped dreaming, and I started to dream again. I started to envision a future that would be better for me
Yes.
and for my son. So it started with the first step really was decluttering. And I decluttered the people who were in my environment, because most of the people in my environment at the time were people who were not going to be going on the
Right.
path with me. There weren't people that needed to do the journey with me. And I started to really gently, and then not in a bad way or anything like that, not in a like,
Right, right,
you're
right,
not my
right.
friend anymore.
Yeah, like I'm not talking
Not
to you
in,
anymore.
yeah, but yes, not in that way, but in a way more of like, I think I need to be conscious of who I am with and the
Right.
energy that they're bringing
Yep.
into my life and my son's life. So it started like this. And then I started affirming things in my life. I started saying that I didn't want to be alone. Yes, I had this history of being with someone and who wasn't the right person for me, but I could find someone else. And unfortunately, in my environment at the time, most of the women in my life, they were either alone or with somebody that they didn't want to be with. And I was like, no, I'm sure I can find somebody who is going to be perfect for me. And I started saying that. And I said, I'm by myself today, but tomorrow I will be with someone that will respect me and that will like my son, love my son as if he was his own son, and etc. And basically, I kind of like not doing is in a notebook, not writing anything in a notebook, but in my mind, I started envisioning this person. And unbeknown to myself, this person was already in my life. But that's another thing. So that person was a friend already, and we just grew from the friendship, and we ended up actually getting married, and we have 2 more
That's
kids.
wonderful.
So,
And I'm gonna ask you something real quickly
so
because I think that sometimes too when people are stuck, they have a hard time even dreaming. And that's one of the things that you said you started with is just dreaming for that life of better. And then you started to declutter the relationships in your life that were not going to bring you out of that place. And I think that sometimes when we lack our self-worth, when we're getting in our own heads, when we're stuck, we don't we can't get to the point of dreaming, and we definitely don't feel like we're worthy enough to get rid of relationships that aren't helping us because we are afraid of being alone or being rejected because our self-worth is so low. And especially if you got out of a relationship that you weren't, getting that love and attention that you deserved, sometimes that can even contribute to that low self-worth. And so I just got to ask you, what
completely.
were you able to do to make sure that you gave yourself that permission, that encouragement to not only dream, but to start to give yourself the permission, I guess, to surround yourself with the healthiest of people?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so when you are in a place where you can't see the future, or you can see your best
Yeah.
self in the future, you need to first of all acknowledge what is happening there at that time. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people do not acknowledge. They don't say, well, this is the position in which I am today. So doing that already, it kind of hits a nail, because you're like, oh, is this what
Okay, that's
I don't
powerful.
want
I get
that,
it. Okay.
but
So
I'm
that's where you
here.
were saying, like, I am not doing okay today, but I will be tomorrow, because it's that acknowledgement of where you are and that, like, okay, awareness of this is not where I want to be. So what can I bring into my life tomorrow? And I love that. That's such a great, simple way to start, by acknowledging it out loud and then saying what you want.
But when you think about it, if someone calls you now and says, "Hi, Rachel, are you okay?" You'll be, "Yes, I'm fine."
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna say automatically. But you might not be fine. You might be having a worry. You might be in a difficult situation. But the reflex that we all have is to say, "Yes, I'm fine." Well, no, I'm not fine, but today I will be. It's already, you are acknowledging that I am at a stage right now where I'm not at my best, and it's fine. It is okay to be there, because tomorrow will be different. Yeah,
I love that so much. Okay, so you said that you started to speak to yourself differently. You started to have more awareness of where you were and whether or not you wanted to stay there, and you started to speak that positivity into your life. You started to surround yourself with the right people. Like you said, you weren't around people that had healthy relationships. So how could you possibly bring those into your own life? So keep telling us a little bit more about what you did and any other things that we can learn from you.
Yes, sure. So then it started. So basically, we have so many areas in our life that needs to be in balance in order for us to be fine, So for example, in terms of finances, in terms of career, in terms of and when I say relationship, like obviously there's friendship, but there's also within your own family, people who are really close to you. So basically, I think I started with, first of all, the relationships with people around me at the time. Then I went into my career, and at the time where I got divorced, well, not when I got divorced. So it takes a time to get divorced here in England. But basically, from the time when we separated, I was unemployed. So I was like, wow, what do you do when you're unemployed and you can't afford the things that you need for yourself? So I went into looking into getting employed, and I got a first job, which was not really what I wanted to do, but it was paying the bills. And from there, I told myself, oh, this is only for a time. So 1 year, 2 year, boom, I moved. And I moved into things that were more in line with myself, things that were more going. So I'm a nurturer. I care for people. I think I will always do that. And so I went into working with young people. And then I stayed there for like about 10 years. And that was amazing. Like, it was amazing to be there and to have this kind of influence on young people. And at the same time, knowing that I was helping them where I could have, what I wish I had at the time where I was young. Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you did to help these young people that you wished you would have had for yourself. So tell us a few of those things that you would do.
So basically, so I'm French. So I left France when I was like 19 to come to London. And at the time, I had no idea of what it is that I could do or I could not do. And what happened is that I quickly went into let's find quickly a job and let's find a room to rent and, the usual like life things. And I didn't think that there was other routes that I could take. And I feel like when I was working with young people in projects or in places, there are so many opportunities for young people that they are not aware of, and therefore they feel like they are stuck in their ways when actually they don't need to be. And when they are presented with so many opportunities, boom, you see the change, and you see this thing like, oh, I can do that, I can go there, and you see all of those things. And it was amazing because basically I was also teaching them French and the French culture. So I used to take them on outing and we'll go to the cinema, watch French
Yeah.
film and, do things, do things in French in here in England. And you could see the way that they were just happy just to be doing some things that someone would find so trivial, but actually was bringing
Mhm.
them another another
Yeah.
breath of fresh air. And that really that's something that I really loved. I really loved doing that. And then but then moving on into um, what happened into the journey. From there, I left. And the reason why I left is because I felt like, although you want to do so many things for young people, you still have the policies and the procedures and this kind of institutional way of doing things. So basically, young people that we could have helped in other ways we couldn't because
Mhm.
money or the company and things like that. And I felt sometimes that I don't know, I felt a bit of heartache sometimes about the way that we were helping them. I felt like we were helping them
Mm.
but not
Yeah.
as much
Yeah.
as what we could have done. And therefore I came to that time where I left and I moved on. But in one thing that I realized that really helped, and this is something that people in general they tend to forget, is that when you learn something, and you implement it in your life, what happens is that you are bringing this thing forward. So basically, what you are doing is like you're not just taking information. You are taking information and then you are implementing it, and that's bringing more of the good vibes, more of the
Mhm.
positivity in your life. So I feel like sometimes, um, especially if you are in a place where you feel like you are really in a dark place, you can use little things to support yourself. So, for example, it could be listening to an audio or listen
Mhm.
even to a podcast that will really inspire you. But what happens in that way is that using that one thing that you will hear in this maybe 30 minutes audio or maybe reading 10 page of a book, what you've learned in it and implementing it into your life will definitely elevate your spirit at some point. And what happened is that you don't have to be somebody who is really into book or is really intellectual to have those kind of things. You're just bringing little things into your
Yeah.
life every single day. And I guess on my journey, this is what I've done. I've bring little things that have elevated my spirit and have kept me going on. And that um, you can do it without having to spend money or anything
It
like
does.
that.
It
If
totally
that
does.
makes sense.
And I'm
I
going to
don't
kind
know.
of wrap all of that up in what I've heard you say. When you were helping the young people, what I noticed that you said was that you helped them to see that there was a world out there bigger than what they were aware of. And that one of the things that you enjoyed doing was
Yeah.
teaching them about French culture. Now, I can translate that into
Yeah.
as an adult. I think that sometimes we feel stuck because we need to show up, we need to pay the bills, we need to be able to rent the room. We don't have the skills, we don't have the upbringing, our parents never told us about such and such a thing, so we get stuck in this rut of what we have to do in order to pay the bills because we have responsibilities and we have things, and we don't allow ourselves to think about all of the possibilities that are there. And I think that it's really cool when you take your immersion into the French culture. It can be anything that we choose to just learn something more about. And when we learn about new things that we don't have any
Yeah.
idea about, what it does is it opens up our creativity. It opens up our spirit in order for us to all of a sudden start seeing things that we never saw before, considering things we never considered before. And so I love that because what you've basically done today, Patience, is giving us hope that there is a life that is beyond what we can see in front of us. And that even though you knew that you needed to, at 25, get a job and pay the rent, you were able to say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm choosing for now. And I'm open to the possibility of better. And you guys, I just think that it's okay for you to show up and clock in and clock out at work right now because it needs to be done to pay the bills. Acknowledging that, just like we're all the things that we've learned from you today, acknowledging that, like, I'm going to go to work today. I don't love this, but tomorrow I'm going to look for something better. Or something to that effect. I don't know if you could say it better than I can, because I'm just trying to learn, and implement what you're teaching me today. And I just think that no matter what stage of life you're in, no matter how taxing things are, no matter where you're faced with and the overwhelm that you have in front of you, to make it a point to learn something new every day, to introduce more creativity, to implement something small into your life every day, acknowledging where you're at out loud, and then giving yourself that encouragement that tomorrow is going to be better. And I think that we have opened ourselves up to all kinds of possibilities.
It's true. And you see, like, when you open up the opportunities, or when you're doing something small and you're putting it, what you're doing actually is creating anchors. You're creating anchors in your life. You're anchoring this better life every single day, every single step. So in general, when you feel like there is no hope, it's really difficult to see the future. But what about now? What about in 10 minutes? What about in an hour? What about tomorrow? What about that? So you can see that. You can implement a small thing. It could be something else, It could be bringing in an object that will be the reminder that every time you see that object, you remember that, oh, there's something coming. Oh, tomorrow is going to be better. Oh, this is happening. It could be this book. Like, for example, some people, they want to be a writer. And maybe they've struggled for so long, and, procrastination and life and people's opinion and things like that. But if you have this one thing that always make you remember, that could be a really symbolic thing, like a pen, or, a book that you really love, and you put it in front of you and you have this every day, at some point, you're gonna reach out to do an action at some point, because you're gonna have this reminder every single day.
And doing one small step is going to help to get that momentum going. I love everything that you're taught us today. You're such an inspiration, all the things that you've been through, and how you are not only using that as fuel to make your own life better, but how you're trying to help other people. And I'm just so appreciative of you. Is there anything that we haven't had a chance to discuss that you are really, really wanting to share with our audience before we wrap up our conversation?
Yes, there's so many things. I'm sorry. I don't think one podcast is not
totally
agree. There's so many things I want to say, but if I could just say one thing before we wrap up, is that you are the one who creates your reality. But before you create this reality, you can visualize this reality. It might not be true right now. It might not be true right at this time, but you could just basically having that little shining, that little star there up hanging over you is gonna actually bring some hope and some faith that you can do much more. So I would say, if I can just wrap up
take your time. Take your time.
Sorry. First of all, change your language. try and use a more positive language. Try and use a language that is gonna uplift you more than something that is gonna bring you down. Second, look at your environment and change what you can change. You might not be able to change where you live right now. It's fine. You just accept that. But bring something into where you live that is going to bring you that anchor that, oh, I'm going to change this soon. This is going to happen soon. Then a big thing is to start learning to dream. But before you do that, and if you see that you can't do the visualization, you can use other things. So you can use a blanket, or you can use something that makes you feel at ease or in safety when you're touching it. You can use a candle so that you got the smell of this something better. It could be that, I don't know, you would love to live on the beach, but you can't live on the beach right now. Just have a candle that smells of the sea, in your house. That's not going to cost a lot of money, but it's going to be a reminder of what it is that you want. And also ask for help. Reach out for people who will be able to help you, or will be able to support you in terms of accountability and being there for you when you need that person to listen to you. So that's quite important. Make sure that person is somebody who's a positive person as well. That will help. And somebody that actually share your values. So there will be no point into finding someone who does not share your values, but someone who share your values and will be able to give you that support when you feel like you can't go on. And then another thing as well is to start, like I was saying, learning. So learning little things in your life every day and implementing it will start to open up the opportunities. And even if at the time where you're listening to this, you don't know what you want to do tomorrow, that's fine. You don't need to figure out everything you want to do. You just need to do one thing and another thing, and that will bring out, that will open up the doors for you. There's so many things I want to say, but
and one of the things that I know we can talk all day, and so this is the thing. Like, we'll probably just have to continue this conversation later for sure. But one of the things that I found is that when it comes to dreaming, that often we are hung up by just not believing that it's possible for us. And it sounds to me like your steps that you've given us really help with that, because if we do one tiny small thing that's consistent with that better life, and we continue to do that tiny small thing day in and day out, we're going to start to build that belief muscle. Don't you think? And so sometimes it's not that we have to believe it to start. We have to sometimes just get into action and then adopt the belief later because of the action.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, so getting to the action can be difficult, but if you start changing the language, you are then now more inclined into going into the action.
Can you give me a couple of examples of language that you would try to change up?
Yes, so basically, but, the word but. So we always use the word but into our conversation. I think I do it as well. I'm trying to do it less. I'm a bit more aware of it. But it's like using but. So when you're using but, what you're doing is that you're saying a sentence and you're negating the rest. You're actually negating what you just said with the other one. I would love to go to the cinema, but... and then you find an excuse and you put it there, right. When actually you could say, I would love to go to the cinema and I also need to go and do my shopping. So I might be a bit, I might have a little bit of a time problem in that sense. So instead of saying no, because but is really no. instead of saying no, yes, you've actually said, I've got a conundrum. What do I do? So that's one example. Another example, which is like really, and I don't know if you know about this author. She's called Denise Duffield Thomas, and basically she talks about money mindset and things like that. And basically, one that she often said, which I think is really good example, is when you say, when a child picks up some money, and you know they're a child, so they put it in their mouth, or they're playing with it. You're like, no, money is dirty. Well, no, money is not dirty. But the fact that you're saying that, you're then thinking that actually money is dirty. So you're bringing that kind of energy
and subconscious
into your
programming.
life. So it's just changing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what would you say instead, or just catching yourself and not doing that?
You said, oh, the money was just on the floor, so maybe we can clean it before you play with it, you know? Or maybe be careful. If you if you put it in your mouth, you could, you know.
Money doesn't go in our mouths.
You know, like, I think.
Yeah.
And money is not dirty. So that's something else that, that's another conversation that I think there's a lot of belief we have around things in our lives, when we feel like actually we've been kind of like brainwashed, if I can say it like that.
Absolutely. And I think
yes.
No, and, go ahead. Actually, what?
Yeah. And actually, what that brings is that it brings other vibes into your life, that just what the sentence that you said. So, well, if money is dirty, do you really want the money?
Right.
Or you don't want it?
100%. And that's what's so powerful about language. And so not only is the language that we use a outward indicator of maybe what's going on inside of our subconscious, but we also, the things that we say without thinking of it, add to that programming into our subconscious. So words are really powerful. And that's where NLP comes in, is that we recognize the powerful connection and association between our words and what actually is going on in our subconscious programming. And so it's such a fascinating field. I'm so grateful for you and everything that you were able to share with us today. And I know that other people are going to be like me, and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to know this woman more. I need to know what she's about. I could have talked to you all day. So we will make sure, you guys, that you have all of the ways to connect with patients in our show notes. And I will also put the name of that author that you mentioned, if you wouldn't mind just messaging me back. And we'll make sure that we have that in the show notes as well, so that if somebody wants to pick up that work. But it's been such an honor to talk to you today. I'm so grateful that you were able to share with everything. And one of the things that we always do is we ask our guests to give us one coaching question or one question to ponder that we can think about that's going to help us to get from where we are to where we want to be. So what is a question that you would ask our audience to think about that's going to help them move forward?
Okay. So if you had no limitation, what would you like to do?
I love it. And if you have no limitations, guys, what would you do? And I think that's such a powerful, powerful question. And one of the things that I love to do, patience, is I don't give you guys a heads up that I'm going to ask you that. And I think it's so fun just to see kind of where the spirit leads you to share. And so I'm so grateful that you shared that with us. So thank you so much for everything, you guys. I hope that you got out of this as much as I did. And we want to make sure that we're blessing you in every way possible. So make sure that you leave us a review. Make sure that you connect with us. Let us know that this is helping you. And if you haven't already, take a quick screenshot or tell people that you're listening to the Unstuck podcast and your stories. Invite them along the journey, because we want to continue to bless people on every single leg of this journey. So thanks everybody for joining us. And until next time, continue to be better, do better, and have better. All right. Thank thank you so much for listening to the Untucked podcast. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. And don't forget to check out the show notes if you want to get into my private club, the Better Club, to be able to learn better ways to be better, do better, and have better. So until next time, keep showing up. Let's get unstuck together. Have a great day.